the CEO's paralyzed daughter. Had no one at her birthday, until a black boy changed everything. The grand hall shimmered with chandeliers, a space built for celebration, yet it sat eerily silent. A lavish cake, untouched. Balloons hung limply, their colors mocking the emptiness. In the center, a wheelchair-bound girl with bright eyes waited, her heart sinking as each minute passed. Her father, a powerful CEO, had spared no expense for her birthday, but not a single guest came. She had everything money could buy, except the warmth of companionship. Just when despair threatened to consume her, a figure appeared at the door. A young black boy, hesitant but determined, whispered a question that would change everything. The CEO was a man whose name carried weight in boardrooms and on the front pages of business magazines. People admired his success, envied his wealth, and feared his influence. Yet, behind the glass walls of his empire, he carried a pain no amount of money could erase. His only daughter, Emily, had been paralyzed from the waist down after a tragic accident years earlier. Despite her condition, she radiated innocence and kindness, the sort of light that could soften even the coldest heart. When her birthday approached, her father vowed to make it unforgettable. Invitations were sent to every child in her private school, to neighbors, and even to families who once begged for his attention. The mansion was transformed into a wonderland, balloons shaped like stars, a towering cake layered in gold, and a garden filled with carnival rides specially designed for accessibility. Everything was planned perfectly because he believed if people saw the magic he created, they would come. More importantly, he hoped they would see Emily for who she was, not her wheelchair. But as the hours slipped away, silence filled the mansion. Servants shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the empty driveway. Emily, dressed in her favorite pastel dress, tried to stay hopeful, her eyes darting to the door each time she heard a sound. She wanted just one friend, one child who would laugh with her, share cake, and prove she wasn't invisible. Instead, the truth became painfully clear. No one was coming. Behind her father's stoic expression burned a fury he dared not show. The girl who deserved the world was left with nothing but silence, and the weight of rejection pressed heavily against her fragile heart. The minutes stretched into hours, and the birthday that was meant to sparkle with laughter became a haunting echo of loneliness. Emily's father had built a kingdom of wealth, yet in this moment, it crumbled around him. He had imagined children rushing through the halls, filling the air with joy, not this unbearable stillness. The staff tried to cheer Emily with sparklers and songs, but their voices felt hollow against the absence of friends. Emily forced a smile, not wanting her father to see the tears she held back. Deep inside, though, she felt the sting of rejection, in a way that cut sharper than any wound. Outside those mansion gates, whispers told a different story. Parents who once courted the CEO for favors had quietly declined their children's invitations. Some claimed busy schedules, others gave vague excuses, but the truth ran deeper. Prejudice lingered like a shadow, shaping how people saw Emily, not as a child, but as someone different. They whispered about her wheelchair, about how it would be uncomfortable for their children to attend. In the eyes of those families, her disability made her less, and yet the cruelty didn't stop there. For years, Emily had been sheltered from the harsher realities of the world by her father's influence. But outside the glass walls of privilege, another layer of injustice thrived: racism. It wasn't just Emily who was judged by appearances. It was the boy who would soon walk into her life. That boy lived just beyond the polished neighborhoods in a modest part of town. His name was Jordan. He wasn't from wealth or privilege. His family carried themselves with quiet dignity despite facing daily struggles. Jordan often passed by the CEO's mansion on his way home from school, peering at the towering gates that seemed to guard another world. He'd heard children at school talk about Emily, sometimes cruelly, sometimes in hushed tones. What struck him most wasn't the way they mentioned her wheelchair, but the way they dismissed her altogether, as if she didn't matter. On the day of her birthday, while others chose to stay away, Jordan noticed the empty driveway as he walked past. He saw balloons fluttering weakly in the breeze and heard faint music drifting from inside. Something inside him hesitated. He didn't belong in a place like that, not with his worn sneakers and patched-up backpack. But then he thought of Emily, sitting alone while a celebration meant for joy turned into heartbreak. It would have been easy for him to keep walking, to tell himself it wasn't his place. After all, he was just a boy from a world far removed from hers. But Jordan's heart carried a courage that others lacked. He paused at the gate, his hands trembling slightly as he gathered the nerve to push it open. With each step up the driveway, he felt the weight of eyes that weren't even there, imagined voices telling him he didn't belong. Yet he pressed on. When he reached the grand doors, he almost turned back. What if they turned him away? What if his presence brought more pain to the girl inside? But something stronger than fear whispered within him. What if she needed him? What if one small act of kindness could change her day? Taking a deep breath, Jordan knocked gently, unaware that this single decision would not only shift Emily's world, but also reveal the harsh divides of society in ways neither of them could yet imagine. The heavy door creaked open, revealing the grand but hollow celebration inside. Emily looked up, her eyes tired from hours of waiting, and for a moment she thought her mind was playing tricks on her. A boy stood in the doorway, clutching the straps of his worn backpack, his expression unsure but kind. He didn't have an invitation, no polished shoes, no expensive gift, but he had something no one else had offered her that day. Presence. Jordan stepped forward timidly, and Emily's father, startled, looked him over. At first, confusion clouded his face. What was this boy doing here? But then he saw Emily's reaction. Her eyes lit up with a spark that had been missing all day. She straightened in her wheelchair, her trembling hands gripping the armrest, as if holding on to hope itself. For the first time that day, her lips curved into a genuine smile. Jordan hesitated, then softly asked the words that would echo in the walls of that mansion long after the balloons had deflated. "Can I join you?" The room seemed to pause, as if the chandeliers themselves held their breath. Emily's father realized that the lavish decorations, the glittering cake, and the extravagant rides outside, all of it had meant nothing without this simple moment of kindness. His daughter didn't need the world's riches. She needed to feel seen. As Jordan walked toward her, Emily's loneliness melted away. For hours, the two children played. He pushed her wheelchair toward the rides, laughed with her at the silly clowns, and cheered as she blew out the candles. The empty hall no longer felt like a tomb of rejection. It was filled with the sound of genuine joy. But behind the laughter, a deeper truth took shape. In a society blinded by prejudice, toward disability, toward race, it wasn't wealth or power that bridged the gap. It was compassion. A black boy, overlooked by many, and a paralyzed girl abandoned by her peers, had found strength in one another. Together, in that mansion built on wealth but starved of humanity, they redefined what celebration truly meant. When the last candle flickered out and the music softened, Emily leaned back in her chair, her heart lighter than it had been in years. For the first time, her birthday felt real. Not because of the decorations or the mansion's grandeur, but because someone had chosen her. Jordan, the boy who had nothing to offer but kindness, had given her more than any of the absent guests could. He gave her laughter. He gave her friendship. He gave her hope. Her father watched quietly from the corner, his chest heavy with emotions he hadn't allowed himself to feel. All the power he wielded, all the influence he commanded, had failed to bring joy to his daughter. Yet one child, ignored by society for the color of his skin, had succeeded where wealth had not. The irony cut deep, but it also opened his eyes. For the first time, he understood that the world's cruelty wasn't just pointed at his daughter. It reached far beyond the walls of his empire. As word spread of what had happened that night, whispers filled the community. Some mocked the idea of the CEO's daughter celebrating with him. Others quietly felt the sting of shame for not showing up. But for Emily and Jordan, none of that mattered. They had found a bond that didn't depend on status, ability, or skin color. Their friendship became a quiet rebellion against a society that had tried to diminish them. And so, what began as a day of rejection ended as a lesson for everyone watching. True humanity isn't measured in wealth or appearances. It's measured in the courage to see another's pain and choose compassion over silence. Emily's birthday would not be remembered for its empty chairs, but for the moment one boy stepped forward when everyone else turned away. So the question lingers. In a world so quick to judge, to exclude, and to divide, would you have had the courage to be the one who showed up?